All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to our Monday night team call. These are always very rewarding, and it's seriously so awesome to have so many different topics that we get to hear each and every week. But I am genuinely pumped for this call because I had the honor, as many of you did in Punta Cana, to hear from Tracy, just her wisdom and her tips. And I was sitting next to Suzanne Clinton in that meeting, and I leaned over to her and I said, I'm just really impressed with her. Like, she just has a lot of wisdom and just so much like tangible tips. And so I approached her later on and said, would you do a team call for me? I was like, you may be getting a ton of requests right about now since you got off that stage, but I just was genuinely impressed with what you had to say and your posture. And I really think our team could benefit from hearing just your wisdom and your thoughts. Tracy has been with Plexus right at 7 years. And she has so much grit and so much confidence in sharing this business and has really grown in her leadership over the last few years. And so, Tracy, we are just honored to have you. And we'd love just to hear what you have for us tonight.
Yeah, well, wouldn't you know, my computer crashed right before I was hopping on this call. So I was like, I gotta get on my phone. And then you're trying to remember the number and type it at the same time. And
Yep.
that is not get easier the
Nope.
more kids and the older you get.
Yeah, I've been there.
So I am pulling up my notes really quick, but I'm going to go ahead and just start by sharing a little bit of my story. I don't think a lot of people know this. And like you said, I've been with Plexus for 7 years, and this leads into what I really want to encourage you with tonight. And that is, building stability by having a solid foundation. How do you have stability in your business? Because I think that's what everybody really wants at the end of this. We want to be able to have a sick kid, or to be able to have to care for a family member, and to be able to kind of step back at different points, and your business doesn't fall apart. And I think that from the very beginning, that is something that I've really been working towards. And I would say that's something that sets me apart in this. I was introduced to Plexus a little over 7 years ago, by my sweet friend, Paige Greenway. We had gone to junior high and high school together all the way back since fourth grade. And she very persistently followed up with me after her first initial reach out. And because of that persistence, I knew that she was somebody that I was going to be able to trust. And it wasn't when she was ready, it was when I was ready. And so after a health crisis, I came into Plexus. Little did Paige know that my husband and I had been praying for an opportunity for me to make income from home. She did not know that. And so when I saw what she was doing, and when I saw how much money she was making, because she shared it, I was interested in this. And y'all, I started sharing Plexus 2 weeks after I joined her with my triplex combo. I think she was just as surprised as I was that I was sharing these products alongside of her. But here's what I knew. I knew that she could help me be successful. And I understood from very early on that to be successful in this business, because Plexus was different than a lot of the companies my friends had joined, I needed to find people to do this with me. And so I just started telling everybody, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I think that you should do it with me. And what that led to was shares from very early on. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew that I, for the first time, saw something that I thought I could be good at. And I knew that my sponsor could help me get to where I wanted to go. And so, with those two things in place, I just started sharing Plexus. And I came up against some roadblocks along the way. And I don't know if any of y'all have hit roadblocks in your business. Maybe raise your hand if you've hit a roadblock, right? Yeah. But these are some of the ones that I hit. And so I wanted to share them with you, because I think sometimes we're sitting there and we're like, but like, how did you do that? Like, how did you get people to share Plexus with you? How did you get other people to buy into this idea of building a business? And the truth of the matter is, it started with me. It started with me. It started with me really believing that I could do something like this. I had a whole lot of skepticism in network marketing. I had seen friends from other companies like lose money. There was one company that came through our church. Can't even remember what it was called, but like one of my best friends lost $1,000. And I, I literally, I looked at her and I was like, you're an idiot. Like, what are you doing? You just bought that and thought you'd make your money back? And so, like, I had been there. And so part of where this journey started was it was believing that like I had found the right company, and it was believing that I could do this and that I had something valuable to offer people. And y'all, I think no matter where you're at, whether it's a month or a year or 8 years or 10 years into this business, if you're struggling and moving forward, the reality is there's probably something right here that you need to look at first. Because chances are you're looking at, well, what message, right? What message is she sending? What, trainings is she sending her team? What, it's all looking outward. But if you can look at yourself and say, do I believe in myself? Do I believe in Plexus? Do I believe in network marketing? Those three things, those three areas of belief are really important to find success in this business. They're really important to find a solid foundation in this business. Because if you maybe rank to gold or senior gold and you really don't think that network marketing is a good career, it's going to be really hard to invite other people to do this with you. You're like, oh yeah, but like, oh, we're network marketers. Just don't tell anybody, right? It's going to be really hard. And so it really starts with belief. I had to do some intrinsic work because I came into this as a mom struggling with postpartum depression, overweight, didn't work out a day in my life since having my son. Like all of those things, I was struggling with confidence and I didn't have self belief right off the bat. And so you got to start there with, do I actually believe that I can do this? And if you find that that's your struggle, y'all, go read the John Acuff book soundtracks. Like, go read Get Over Your Darn Self. Like, go read some of those books that are challenging your belief in yourself. Because sometimes we start looking at things like leadership and systems, but we really don't have the belief yet. And you've got to start there. The next thing that I realized this was going to take, and I am so grateful, and I am telling you, if you have a sponsor that is modeling consistent action for you, count yourself blessed, because that is not everybody. I had a sponsor that modeled consistent action for me. She literally invited me in on what she was already doing. She changed nothing when a runner joined her. And I think sometimes we sit there and we're like waiting and waiting and waiting. And you're like, when I find a runner, then I'll ... And the truth of the matter is, runners are looking for people who are already running. Okay. They're looking to run alongside you at the pace you've already set. And so if you're wondering why I keep getting dabblers or joggers or walkers, it goes back to the intrinsic work. Am I running? Am I taking consistent action? Am I putting the open sign on my Facebook every single day? Like sharing that I am open for business? Am I posting inconsistently? And then I'm wondering why others who are on my team are posting inconsistently, right? It literally all goes back to checking on yourself first. One of the things that I learned as a camp counselor, we always used to say this to our kids at camp: when you're pointing at somebody else, there is one finger pointing away and 3 fingers pointing back at you. And so it is the same for this. If you're like, they, like you've got 6 fingers pointing back at you. And so you want to take inventory of, am I taking consistent action? Here's a plug for the Star Diamond Rising group. If you're not in that and you want to take consistent action, that is awesome. It is like all of Plexus rowing together. And I feel like that is really, honestly, I've had a couple conversations with teammates this week, even just from the day. And they're like, I thought I was being consistent, but if that's consistent action, then I'm not taking it. Like, okay, like this is good, because You can't fix, yeah, it's me, I'm the problem, Melissa. But like, you can't fix everybody else, but you can control what you do. And so take consistent action, show it to others what you're doing. And then maybe you'll just find someone else who wants to come along and run at your pace. Okay, the third thing, y'all. So we've got self-belief, consistent action. The third thing is a willingness to grow. All of these things point back at you. All of them. I tell my kids all the time, we have 3 boys, an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old. I don't tell my 1-year-old yet because he's just real cute. But I tell them, I'm like, guys, you cannot control how other people respond. But my 5-year-old who likes to punch people sometimes, I'm like, you can control you. You can't control that little Johnny tried to take your ball. You can control that you don't punch him in the face, right? Well, a willingness to grow means that you are constantly taking intrinsic, like looking at yourself, taking inventory and saying, am I hitting a leadership lid? John Maxwell talks about this a lot, where when I'm telling you, there were times where I was slamming up against my leadership lid so hard. And basically a leadership lid is what you're capable of doing in leading others. And I was trying to get people to do things, but I wasn't growing as a leader. And so what I had to do was kind of go like this and say, okay, I'm going to go grow myself real quick. And then I'm going to come back with new tools and new skills and be able to lead even better. Are you willing to grow? Are you asking whoever you're coaching with, if that's monthly or weekly or bi-monthly, saying, hey, is there anything that you see in me that you wish you could tell me? Right? If there was something holding me back, I would want you to tell me. Could you tell me? And then could you receive that feedback? Y'all, I went to college as an art major. We had to put our work up on the whiteboard in front of a whole class of people. And then they would tell you everything that was wrong with it because it made you better. Because it made you better. And I'll never forget when I got chosen, we had to design these pamphlets and I got chosen. And my professor was like, look at you. Like, I am so proud of you. And I was like, I thought you hated my stuff. And he was like, no, I was making you better. I knew what you were capable of. And so I was making you better. And then he like gave me a high five and we went on our merry ways. And I think this is a lot the same. Are you reading personal development books? Drop in the comments, what are you reading right now to grow? If you don't have an answer, go find a book or ask Tamara or your upline, where should I start? And go read that. Yeah, podcast, incredible. Incredible. And I just think that sometimes we try to change everybody else around us, but we don't look at ourselves. Atomic Habits is one of my favorites. A really quick read is Eat That Frog. Really, really good for habit building and getting the scary things done first. But y'all, you've got to look at yourself. Are you willing to grow? Are you asking for feedback? Are you receptive to feedback and do you implement? Because I know that I've had conversations with people before where sometimes I'll even stop offering feedback because it's never implemented. And that shows not a willingness to grow. What's the opposite of that? A lack of growth. And then the last thing that I think I want to share with you, and I'm like running through these quick, so I'm going to open it up for like a Q&A afterwards, if that's okay, Tamara. The biggest thing that I would say when people say like, what do you feel like are your strengths? What do you feel like sets you apart in this? John Maxwell, like do you ever find something and it like puts words to all of your thoughts? And you're like, I did not know how to like say that in a way that was understandable. But y'all, I'm reading this book by him. I have it right here. It's the Leadership Workbook. It has been incredible. We're going through this with our rubies and above right now. But he said something today that I was like, that's it. That's what sets me apart here. He's talking about building your ladder. And so if you're a leader in Plexus, sometimes you start out, and like I started out, and Paige, my sponsor, had a ladder, and she was climbing it and I was climbing her ladder. Her ladder was firm. It had a firm foundation. She was going up, and I literally was just following her. Okay. People who were sharing with me, we all kind of climbed on Paige's ladder because I was a baby in this. I was not a strong leader. I did not know what this was going to be for me. I was trying to figure all that out. And so we were all climbing Paige's ladder. And then at some point, probably between senior Ruby and Emeralds, I, without saying these words, but I said, "Hey, Paige, I think I'm ready to have my own ladder." And so I went and got a ladder and I propped it up on my solid foundation. And I started climbing, and my team got on my ladder with me. Now, y'all, this is where I found myself probably about 2 years ago, where I was like, oh my gosh, there are so many people on my ladder. I've got to call out leaders and help them start working towards building their own ladders. Sometimes when you have a really strong leader, everybody just wants to stay on their ladder. They're like, you've got this, right? And then the ladder gets really, really full. And the illustration that John gave us, he was like, you're extending your ladder. And what had happened about 2 years ago is my ladder got real top heavy with some of my Ruby and senior Ruby leaders. And so I kind of brought things back to the foundation, and I said, you know what, you guys, we've got to work on raising leaders. And so we came back down, and I said, okay, we've got to grow leaders. And y'all, growing leaders is a process. It is in the trenches, in the valley. It is not a whole lot of mountaintop experiences if you're looking at like mountaintops and valleys of Plexus. It is deep, deep trench work. If you heard me kind of speaking on this at Leaders Retreat, this is the deep, deep trench work. It was saying, I am realizing I am going to have to help a couple of people get their own ladders before I bring more people onto my ladder. And so that is what the last couple of years have held is specifically, I have helped my level ones, Allie and Michelle, grow in their leadership to the point, because you guys, most people don't come into this as leaders. Most people come into this as exhausted women who just want to feel better and help friends feel better, right? Sometimes somebody will come in as a natural leader with like a vision for the business, and that's incredible. But that is not the majority, I don't feel like, in our industry. And so we did this deep, deep trench work of reading book studies together and coaching and modeling coaching and, okay, I do, you do, back to like the basics, but with like leadership type stuff now. And so at this point, what it is this solid foundation. And now it's, I've got a ladder and I've got some people that are still on it. And my level one, Michelle, has a ladder, and y'all seeing her step up in her leadership, it is like the most incredible thing in the world when you see people step into their full potential. She's trusting herself. She's doing these things, growing her leadership, practicing things, doing things imperfectly, hosting events, like doing all of these kind of gritty things. And then there's Allie, who's also stepping into these things and partnering with her people and leading out in certain ways. And what that has done is it has allowed me to bring more people onto my ladder. Because I think what you see sometimes in these businesses is like all these people on one ladder, and the ladder's like, woo, here we go, party. And it feels exhausting. It feels overwhelming. It feels like burnout. It feels like spinning wheels. It doesn't actually feel like growth, and it doesn't feel life-giving. And so by kind of recognizing some areas that growth needed to happen in and slowing down a little bit, right? because at that point, it didn't matter how many enrollments I had coming in. I was still enrolling, but like I had to take some of that focus and focus it on raising leaders because of the vision of what I wanted this to be. Y'all, I'm creating a legacy business for my family. I am growing to 3, 4, 5-star diamond and beyond. That's what I am envisioning here. And I think sometimes we can get so just blind focused on like, I just want to be a jewel. I can only get to emerald. And then you get to emerald and it's like, oh, what now? Like deer in the headlights. I don't have leaders. I don't have people that I'm raising up. All these people are on my ladder and I'm really not sure what to do with it. And so if you can implement some of these things now and start really considering, who do I have that could grow into becoming a leader, right? Who do I have that I could start kind of challenging in those ways? Then maybe you won't have to slow down to kind of speed up. Maybe you could implement some of those things from the ground and start growing that way from the beginning, right? And so that is, I feel like what really sets me apart is taking this ladder analogy and saying, how can I help more people have solid ladders that they are building organizations in? And what he says to kind of finish out that section is he says, because then we're all viewing from the top together. And that's the goal here. So that's what this compensation plan is created for. It's created for legacy businesses. Most compensation plans aren't created for legacy businesses. And so utilizing that to build a business that is sustainable for your family, it's going to be incredible. Okay, Tamara, that's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think we have time for maybe 2 questions if anyone wants to pop off of mute and oh my gosh,
What?
y'all, my nose just started bleeding.
Oh my gosh.
I'll take over, Tamara.
Thank you. I'll be right
I'll
back.
take over. Traci, I resonated with what you said. Have you ever read something that kind of like, speaks to you and stuff? Phil Jones's book, how to, what I say, his book,
That one?
Exactly What to Say. So I know what to say. I've been in the business for 10 years. I can recruit all day long. But when I read his book, I'm like, doing like, oh gosh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, that's so good. If you ever read that book, it's really small. It takes less than an hour to read it. But he says it in a way that it just resonates with you, and you can use his verbiage when you're recruiting. And so when you said that, I was like, okay, that's the first book that came to my mind. So if you're not reading that, guys, you need to read that book.
I have this book right by my computer and I look at it daily.
I even have it on my Audible and so I also have the hard copy so I can highlight stuff because it's y'all primo stuff. Someone says, is part of creating what is part of your creating what is part of creating your strong foundation?
Um, okay, so for me, my strong foundation comes from my faith in the Lord, walking with him every single day, like carving out that time in the morning, praying over my day, praying over my team. It looks like consistent date nights with my spouse. My strong foundation really is everything that I can control. There's a lot of things I can't control, right? But it starts with those things. My daily action that I'm taking, the conversations that I'm having, that's where it starts.
That's good. That's really good. Does anybody have any other questions? Yeah, Vicki, I like that book too. It's really good. It's a really easy read. I kind of lose attention span. It's an easy read. But Traci, I see you all the time on the sprints, Diamonds to Sprints, y'all. She's on the trainings and she does all the things and she's growing and all that kind of stuff. So it works. Traci, pick a number between 1 and 40, and I'm gonna give that number and call out that person. Oh, there's Tamara. Tamara, you want to do your prize?
Yes. Well, I was doing a scroll through Also, how embarrassing, like, literally just start talking, y'all, all over my new notebook. Uh,
That's the worst.
I was actually scrolling through and looking at all the, book recommendations, and I was gonna pick my prize from that, and I picked, I lost Rachel Wilkinson, who recommended Failing Forward by John Maxwell and Exactly What to Say. So, Rachel, send me your address and I'm going to shoot you a prize. Um, but yeah, I think you said a lot of really valuable things that I wrote down. But one of the main things that stuck out to me is, and we've all heard it before, but it kind of hit me a little bit differently. Like when you're pointing fingers and saying, so and so's not doing this, or so and so's not doing this, so and so's not listening, but like, and then just turning that back on yourself, like self-awareness and self-reflection, like that is so good for my soul when I do that. And I had a moment like that several months ago, and I really was able to take a like a deep dive look at myself and my leadership and my parenting, like several things. And it was just really eye-opening to me, and so I think without awareness, like, you can't make changes, right? You can't be
Yes.
intentional about growth, and so I think it's good, like, if it's at the end of every month, if it's the end of every quarter, like, asking yourself some hard questions, like, "What have I done this month to further my goals in my business?" Or, or your spiritual life, or your parenting, or your marriage, like, whatever it is, but I know we're talking about business here. I think it's important. I think it's an important piece of leadership, whether you are a diamond or you are a gold leading your team, like looking and saying, what can I do different? What can I change up as a leader to inspire my people or to bring new runners in? And we've all heard this said. Jessica talked about it today. Like, you kind of who you are is kind of who you attract. And so if you're not sharing about the business, if you're not sharing about your passion for this opportunity, those people are not going to be the ones that come to you. They're just not. Those type of people are going to be drawn to ones who are sharing about that. And so just I think self-awareness is just so important. And you touched on that in several different points you made, Tracy. And I just really appreciate that like reminder, because that's something I want to do every month is like assess myself.
Yeah, well, and I think there are certain people accept feedback from, and there are others that I'm not going to accept feedback
Yeah.
from. And like knowing who those people are in my life that like they want everything good for me, and they love the Lord and are seeking Him in wisdom also. Like there are just some things there where having those people in every area, like you said, it's important.
Yeah. And I think on that note, and then we'll jump off here, that power hour's about to start up. But yeah, is going to people that you know are for you, that you know love you and accept you and don't expect perfection from you, but like going to them and saying, "Hey, I'm doing some self-awareness here about my business or about my leadership. Like, what do you see? Or what advice do you have? Or what do you see that I'm doing that maybe I could do a little differently?" And we all need that, right? Because sometimes an outside perspective is exactly what we need to kind of push the needle for us individually. Does anybody else have anything?
So
All right.
good.
Well, Tracy, thank you so much.
Yes.
Would love for y'all, if you have time tonight, ladies, to jump on the power hour with your list and get excited for this launch tomorrow. All right, everybody.
So
Thank you.
excited.
Good night.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.